I'm a librarian. My name is Teresa Simeo. I'm a librarian at the DACC Library. I'm joined by my colleagues Susan Bontley and Jose Aranda, and a couple of other library folks are here too. I am very informal, so please feel free to ask questions as they come to you. I'll be happy to answer them as we go. So we're going to be talking about how to Google like a librarian, and this is just some tips and tricks that a lot of librarians will use. We can use a lot of the tips and tricks I'm going to show you in library databases as well. So it's a handy skill to know. It crosses platforms. So a couple of business items before we get started. It looks like everybody's muted, which is good in case there's a dog or a cat or a kid or something back there. And the presentation's being recorded, so it'll be available for watching again later. And feel free to use the chat box. I'm not sure I'll be able to see that, but Susan and Jose will. So on to the presentation. So what we're going to cover is these items, and the first one is using the word and the word or, and using the minus sign, which is effectively a not. If you're used to computer programming, it's a not. We'll be talking about quotation marks and phrases, title searches, searches for document types like a PDF or a PowerPoint, how to search within a website, a site search, if the website doesn't provide it, especially. And then we'll talk about Google's search tools and a trick about searching for images that I find useful. So when you use Google, your results are going to be affected by lots of things. It's whether you're logged into a Google product like Chrome or Gmail, or even YouTube is a Google thing. It depends on what device you're using, and it depends on where you are. The example I saw was that you can search for football in the United States and you'll find American football, but if you search for football in Europe, you're going to find soccer, what we call soccer. So it is intuitive. It does a lot of really cool things. Google is a very powerful tool. It has a lot of very complicated algorithms that are changing all the time and adapting all the time. It's artificial intelligence data intake all the time. So you can run a search one day, run it that evening, and get different numbers of results. It's very fluid. So just to know that. So first I'm going to talk about how to use and. So Google already, it says it does and implicitly. So when you use multiple words in a search, it's essentially saying, I want to find this word and that word and this third word somewhere in the top part of this article. But in general, adding the word and will give you fewer results because you're asking more of the search. You're wanting more specific information, the more words you add to your search terms. So this is in the little graphic down here, basically is showing you how Google or how Boolean and works. Boolean logistics is a way of describing this kind of search strategy. So say that this circle here represents all the articles that include the word peanut butter. And this circle here represents all the articles that contain the word jelly somewhere in it. So when you say you're going to search for peanut butter and jelly, you're going to get this area here where both words show up in both. Because over here, peanut butter could show up in some of these articles, or jelly could show up over here. But when you say and, you just want the ones that have both of those terms in it. So you get a narrower result. And the more words you add, the smaller this space gets, the fewer results you should get. And this and works very well in our library databases as well. So this is a sample search I did for pandemic teens and development. There's been a lot of news about how it's affecting kids, but I decided to search for teens because I thought it might be a little more relevant to our students. So when I just put pandemic teens and development, I got 52 million results, which is a lot. But again, Google's algorithm is very slick, and it tries to bring the most reputable, often cited sources to the top. So it does really a phenomenal job. But then on this one, I added the word "and" between the words, and I got 16 million results. So sometimes it works to reduce the number of results and sometimes it doesn't, but you can see the difference. Some articles show up on both lists, and so I don't think it's a huge difference whether you use "and" or not, because "and" is generally implied in a Google search. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is "or," the Boolean "or." It lets you add synonyms, which can be really handy. If, like, in my past search, I searched for teens. It may be better to have searched for teenagers or adolescents or young adults, or, you know, you can put all of these terms together using the word "or." And then you want to put parentheses around everything that has an "or" in between it. Otherwise, because it's like the mathematical order of operations, what it will do is search for, say, if you didn't add an "or," a parentheses around an "or," and you had apples and oranges or pears, and you didn't have oranges or pears in parentheses, it's going to look for apples and oranges first, will be one set of results, and the other will just be pears. Doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with the others. So you have to be very careful about putting parentheses around any strings of "or" items that you have. And this is another graphic example of it: the articles that have peanut butter, the articles that have jelly. And this is, so when you say "or," they could have both. Like this little section right here has peanut butter and jelly in it, but it wants all of it. So you can see it expands your results, and every "or" word you add generally expands. So you'll get more results the more "or" terms you add. Peter, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't notice it sooner.
No, I just put it up. That's okay. So are you putting the parentheses around the "or" or around the peanut butter and around the jelly?
It would be around peanut butter or jelly. It would encompass that phrase.
The whole thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll show you an example next on how I did that.
Thanks.
So this one, I did that. I added adolescents or adolescent or teenagers or teens. And we went from 16 million results, you know, where I just had the "and" between there. And then I have the things in parentheses right here with all the "ors" between them. And I got more results this way. And this is just kind of a gross way of showing how this works. When you do this sort of thing in library databases, you tend to get many fewer results because they've already been vetted for being good articles, peer-reviewed and reputable and factual and all that. So when you use library databases, it doesn't have anywhere near as much the content as Google, but these sort of strategies do work in the library databases as well and can really help you develop search strategies. So again, you see much the same results. It doesn't seem to matter much. And perhaps if I scroll down pages, we would see some more differences. So the next thing I want to talk about is the minus sign. The minus sign acts as a "not." You can say, I want this and that, but not this other thing. You don't want to actually use the word "not" in Google. You can use the word "not" in library databases. So what you do to use this, the mechanics of it is that you have a minus sign just before the word, no spaces or anything, the word you don't want to see. So you don't use spaces after the minus sign. You can't use minus signs in library databases, but you can use the word not. And what that looks like is, say this is the articles that all have peanut butter. This is the articles that all have the word jelly. And right here is the words that have peanut butter and jelly, but you don't want that because we want peanut butter and not jelly. So now you're just going to get only the articles that have peanut butter in it. If you had put peanut butter minus jelly in your search term, you'll get this little sliver over here of results. Does that make sense? The minus sign is essentially not a Boolean not. And here's what that looks. I put minus children. Notice there's no space between the minus sign. And that drops the results down considerably. I should have put like babies or something, but maybe that wouldn't have made much of a difference. Because I was trying to exclude the like grade school kids, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And it looks like it may have done that. So that's another powerful tool you can use with Google. Yes.
Therese, Peter has another question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Susan.
I'm always loaded with questions.
That's
when
okay.
when
I
you
love
talk
it.
about library search, are you saying like Google Scholar or just like NMSU's library?
If you are a student or teacher at NMSU, you can use NMSU's library, and they have library databases there, hundreds of them. And they all contain journal articles, ebooks, video clips, some audio, newspaper articles, all kinds of things, but they're unique enough that we subscribe to them uniquely. DACC has its own library website and library databases. But like, if you're familiar with one of the big ones is Academic Search Complete. It's a like a perfect English 101 database because it's multidisciplinary and tends to be fairly topical coverage of subjects. It doesn't go into great research depth like a master's student or PhD would, but it gives you an overview and can give you different points of view. But so you could say peanut butter and jelly, not honey, in a library database, and it would work that way. It's the same as the minus sign does in Google.
Would Google Scholar work like Google or like the library database?
Like Google.
Okay.
Yeah, and Google Scholar is a wonderful thing, and I encourage you to use it when you can. There is a tool that I wish we had set up, but we don't. I've asked NMSU to set it up for us, but we don't have it. If I have a couple minutes, I'll show you what that is. There's a way to tell Google Scholar to search your library to see if that article is available somewhere in the library. And it's something that has to be set up within our integrated library system to allow Google to, search our databases and find what we have full text. But I'll show you that at the end if I have time. We may get it for the DACC library. It's not there yet, but I'll show you how it works for NMSU. So with quotation marks, this is a really powerful way to make any database search for your words in exactly the order you have given it. It forces it to search for this word in front of that word exactly that way when you have quotation marks around it. And with Google, if you put quotation marks around a single word, it means you absolutely have to have that in the search result, because what Google does, its sophisticated algorithm also looks for synonyms automatically that it has mapped to your keywords. So I'll show you an example right away here. Like up here, I had to put pandemic in quotation marks because it was dropping the word pandemic from search and was substituting the word COVID. And I didn't really want COVID particularly, because when I started looking at COVID as a search term, it would brought up disease symptoms and treatment and how it affects kids. And I really wanted to talk about how the pandemic as a whole affected teenagers' development. And that was a better search strategy. So I did put pandemic in quotation marks up here to force that to be a word that showed up in these search results. And then as a phrase, I used New Mexico because I wanted to see if there's anything about how New Mexico kids are doing, teenagers are doing through the pandemic. And there's a few things here written by, looks like news organizations primarily, maybe some children's services groups. But that brings your search results way down too. Most of these tools I'm showing you will bring you, gives you fewer and fewer, but hopefully more relevant results is the idea. The next thing you can do is say, this is a title search. This is when you want each article or result on the Google Finds has a title to it, assigned to it. And you can use this phrase in title :" and say you want these words to all be in the title of the result that you find. And so this is going to get you even fewer results. But remember, don't put a space between the colon and the word. But I'll show you what that looks like. So what I said was it's the same same exact search terms, only I put in title and colon directly without any spaces with my thing in quotation marks here. I wanted to see all of these words in the title. So that brings you far less results. And you see pandemic, and I think not every, and they're substituting teens for adolescents here, like Google does, which is okay. That's an appropriate substitution. But that's another way to make sure it's not just showing up like in the citations of an article or as a side note or whatever that you want. This is a good way of saying, this is what I want this article to be about exactly. And I want to see those words in the title. And this is just comparing it to the original search. And you can see that you get fewer results. You can also search for document types, like say you only want PDFs. If you want to find full text documents, you can use this term file type with a colon mark and then PDF right after it to search for PDFs. And remember, you don't put a space after the colon. But this looks like this. I'm looking for PDFs, full text articles about these pandemic teens and development words. And it gives it to me. You can see this little PDF symbol right here shows that these are all PDFs. UNICEF has one, that's cool.
Peter has another question.
Okay.
Sorry for the
Thanks.
constant interruption.
No, I asked for it. This is how I can help you best, I think.
Is there no space between the colon and what you have written PDF there? Is this
No.
file? Oh, there's no space
Right, no space
at all. Okay, thank you.
at all, yeah. Most of these special tools, there's no space, like there's no space with the minus sign, there's no space with the in title. That'll be the case with the other things I demonstrate as well. But now you can see we're getting way down there as far as results go, from 16 million down to 195,000. And these look like pretty reputable groups from what I can tell. This is PsycInfo, its archive. And so the last one, and this is one I probably use the most when I'm Googling for things, is that I want to search within a site. And what you do is you have the word site, colon, and a period, and then the website, but without the stuff like HTTPS or www. And it's a good way to search for, like, if you just want to search educational institutions for information. A lot of educational institutions have repositories where they keep their scholarly output. So you'll be able to access full text from some of those just by putting, when you put your search terms and then add site : .edu, and that'll pull up colleges that have an article or a document on that, your subject terms. But remember, you don't have to put .www.whatever.edu. It's just one dot and the rest of the website. And so this is, I wanted to see what the government is saying about these search terms I put out. So I put site : .gov, and that's going to search government websites. It finds stuff in the National Library of Medicine and National Institute of Health, National Institute of Health again, the CDC. That's the kind of things you'll find then when you search for .gov. Is things that our government organizations have published. And it can just be a way of trying to get reputable articles to search for .edu and .gov. And so here's one that I do kind of a lot. I use, because I'm interested in plants, and I know that NMSU has a big extension and outreach office and master gardeners and all that. I wanted to find out what shade trees grow well in New Mexico, in southern New Mexico. So I can't even see what my search terms are there because of the share screen options. But I put site : .nmsu.edu, and this is pulling up a publication from their agricultural, I think it's communications and, oh no, it's consumer. It's agricultural, consumer, and environmental sciences department, which is where their outreach and extension is, that has this kind of article. So there's a PDF here of shade trees that work good for New Mexico, and we'll have lists for our particular area. And here's one for evergreen trees. So I do that a lot, just native plants, I do the same sort of thing, and put nmsu.edu after that site : .dot. Another way I use it is if you're a GPS geek, most counties have GPS data regarding their county, and you can put just the terms GPS and then site : .dot, donianacounty.org. And by clicking on this first result here, and then you have to kind of click around a little bit once you're in there, but you can get this ArcGIS map, an interactive map where you can go and get the elevations of different things. It's really cool. It's worth fooling around with. ArcGIS is an extensive GPS system, and they use it to map out their properties and what they are, and they usually have key codes for what's the legend for what all the things mean. So if you're hiking to a mountain and want to know what the peak is, you can find it here by searching the GPS information on a county's website. And don't forget Google's tools. One of the ones I use the most is to limit my search to a time frame like the past month, because that way you'll get the latest newspaper articles usually. They get published a lot faster than journal articles do. So if you want something in the past month, it's going to be mostly newspaper articles. But here's what I did. I put all the search terms, and then where it says tools, you click on tools here, and it's off to the right after your search. And then you can choose past month. I chose past month. And you can also put in a custom range if you want like the past 5 years, you can put that in here. And you can see these are mostly like news magazines, and this is probably what is that? North Carolina Health Magazine. But this is giving like the past month's information. And there's a few things about I hadn't seen before. Girls are shown to have been developing eating disorders after that. I don't remember seeing that in any of the other results. So that can be really handy to find the most current information that happens to be out there on the topic. And lastly, this Google Advanced Search will let you do almost everything I just showed you, and will let you combine them fairly easily. You can just Google Advanced Search to get to this link, but this is what it is. And I'll show you what this looks like. It looks like this. So where it says all of these words, that's basically sticking an and between all your words. In this exact phrase, that means like when you put quotations marks around the phrase. So it's doing this for this sort of ideas for you. Any of these words, that means or. It means it's using or between all the words you put here. And none of these words is that minus sign. And numbers, this can be price, years. You can put different numbers in here, but I suspect the more things that you fill in here, the fewer results you're going to get. In fact, may get none if you're not careful. But you can choose language, regions, last update, which was like the past month. You can choose in the title here. You can choose what format you want, a PowerPoint or a PDF. So again, Google Advanced Search will let you do a lot of those things. You just have to know how to find it. And lastly, this is something I use too. Unfortunately, you can only use it on your computer. It doesn't work on mobile devices. So it's an image search. You can actually drop a picture from your computer into the Google search. And I do this a lot. Like I said, I like flowers and native plants. I'll take a picture of a flower and then do a Google search for it. And it'll often tell me what it is. And I'll show you how I did that with one. I knew what it was, but I just wanted to see what Google had to say what it was. And this is the URL to get to that, where you can add an image and search for it. And I also use this when I'm trying to verify that we're publishing something, an image. I want to make sure that it's open access, that it's not licensed, that it's not like an photo stock or something that we should be paying for. It's a good way to find a source for an image so you can make sure you're using it properly. Peter?
So I think you just answered my question, but it will tell you the exact file if you have a particular picture that's on the internet. Okay.
It will often find the exact file.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
not always. If people have edited it in some way or significantly, it may not find it.
Awesome.
But this is I'm going to search for this picture that's straight off my phone that I uploaded to my computer. But when you go to this website, you click on the camera image here. And then once you click on that, this window opens and you can upload an image. So I'm going to choose a file off my computer. And I knew these were poppies. I wanted to see what Google said they were. And so when I chose that file and did the search for it, it came up with California poppy, including an article about it and its technical name and more pictures of it. And so that can be kind of handy that way. But like I said, I use it primarily for plants, IDing plants, and for trying to verify the source of an image before we publish it if I don't know where it came from. If it didn't come from Pixabay or some open source photo repository, then I can kind of backtrack it and see where it came from. So y'all have been asking questions as we went. That's great. Did you all have any questions here? What I'll try to do then is I'll try to show you how this Google, oh wait, there was something else I needed to do. We have more workshops coming up. In fact, tomorrow, Susan is giving one on how to effectively choose keywords and phrases to search library databases, and then how to evaluate your resources. This is part of critical thinking, thinking about your resources and their validity and authority and all that. And then her last one is on plagiarism and how to avoid it. So that's citing and paraphrasing and how to do that sort of thing. And then Jose is going to talk about critical thinking again. He did part 1 earlier this semester. He's going to do part 2. And you can email the library to register. And lastly, Susan, can you put in the chat the survey?
Just did.
Thank you. So in the survey, there's this survey where you can let us know what you think today, if this was useful or not, and what we could do to make it better. We all have to assess our efforts, right? So I'm going to go to Google now and show you this thing I was going to tell you about Google Scholar. If I can shut my, how do I shut it?
It would be helpful before we leave that we have the correct link where we can download the slides, because either we watch you or we take notes.
Right.
Right. So.
Right. Well, this is being recorded and the slide presentations will be, we have to process the video to take out all my ums and uhs, and then, yeah, there's another one, Susan, sorry. And then we also post the PowerPoint alongside it.
Okay, are we supposed to go to the library site every day to find out, or are you going to email?
No, we can. I can email you and let you know if you'd like.
Thank you. That would be helpful, because it's sort of like whack-a-mole.
In fact, I can email the presentation to you all after this.
Oh, really handy. So thank you.
Esmeralda, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Sorry, I was in class, so that's why I'm late.
That's
So
okay.
I was looking for, I already like chose the articles for one of my papers, but there's an NMSU and I don't know how to open them.
Okay, it's an NMSU article.
Yes, it's from the library for NMSU.
Are you an NMSU student, or
Yes,
are you?
Yes.
Okay, you're not a DACC student.
No.
You should be. Did you search in Google Scholar?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
but and also directly on NMSU the library.
Okay, and there wasn't a link to the full text. There should be a link to request it then, if you don't see a link to the full text.
I already did it, and there's nothing.
Nothing yet, because it's usually within a day they send it to you. Then I would contact the NMSU library and ask about that, because whenever I've requested something, I've gotten it within a day.
Okay, another question. So this is recording. Can I get like a copy of the video since I'm late? So
Yes,
I can watch.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'll show you where we're gonna post these.
Okay.
In just a second.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll share my screen again and show you this. Since I got rid of that. So this is the library website, the DACC library website. And we have these research guides, which is where all our presentations are. If you click on research guides, you can scroll down to library presentations and hit go. And this takes you to a page that has all our library presentations that we've presented the past couple of years, in fact. And Google Like a Librarian will be up here when it's finished being processed. And this is the URL right here, but if you can remember, I'll send you a link to that too, everybody. And I'll also show you the thing I was going to show you about Google Scholar that will be helpful to NMSU students right now and maybe DACC eventually. So when you're using Google Scholar, you want to sign in using your Google your Google logins, your Gmail or whatever. And once you do that, over here under settings, where it says library links, what you can do is search. I'm going to search for NMSU. And that's enough, I think. And there it is, New Mexico State University. So if you check mark this, what that's going to do is every time you run a Google search, a Google Scholar search, it's also going to run a search in as many library databases as it can at NMSU, and will provide a PDF link to you. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'll do that same, well, what do they study over there? I'll put regenerative agriculture. So what you see here is all the PDFs you can directly get to. I'm trying to find one that says NMSU. It would say NMSU along here. I'll go ahead and stick NMSU up here just to try to force it to do that. Oh, but see, these are probably out of repositories, institutional. There we go. This is a PDF available from NMSU. I think it's just from their ACEs.
Therese,
Oh, yeah.
you have to, the other one is NMSU. So go back to the library over in your settings.
Library links.
Yes. And type in NMSU.
Oh, this isn't New Mexico State?
That is New Mexico, but it's not the full, that's only ProQuest.
Well, ProQuest owns
See?
Ex Libris. So
Yeah,
you
but
also have
that's-
to do this one.
Yeah, it doesn't connect. So you have to do
Okay.
it this way, NMSU and New Mexico State.
You have to do them both.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Susan. She's a student at NMSU, so she knows this, but we don't have a DACC one of these yet. I've asked for it, but sometimes these things take forever. So maybe that's where that's coming from, and that looks like an old dissertation to me. But that it's cool because it will open up the things that.
Run the search again without the NMSU,
Okay.
and you'll get something different.
Okay, get it at NMSU.
Yes.
Okay. So that means that's within the subscriptions, the database subscriptions at NMSU.
It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty close.
Okay. So it looks like it's an open access journal. And it's probably going to take me just to the journal and not to that. No, it did. Okay. And it eventually is supposed to open up the actual document for you. So that's really a handy thing Google Scholar can do if we have it set up. And if we can get that set up where you can search for DACC in the library links, then hopefully someday we will. There is a DACC in there, but it's not us. It's Danville. It's an East Coast community college. But again, if you're going to NMSU, you can go to settings and this little options, the little hamburger menu, and then to library links and search for your library. I don't know if Brannigan is in there. Sometimes public libraries are there too. No, Brannigan hasn't set it up. Or is there 2 N's in Brannigan? I don't think so. No. But if you search for DACC, you'll get a college out on the East Coast, the Danville area community college. So we'll have to choose something other than full text at DACC libraries if we can get it implemented.
If anyone is associated with another university, you can also search. There is not a limit, I don't think, to the number of libraries you can add. So if you're, let's say you went to Purdue or Notre Dame or something like that, and you're an alumni and have access to their university resources, their library resources, you can add that in there. So.
And most University of Notre Dame, there it is. So if you have access to their articles, it'll show up there. But you have to be a current registered student or current faculty, student, or staff to do that sort of thing. So I think that was all I know about Google, y'all. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
Yes, there's one question that says, what is the best way to search for an entire book available as a PDF? Now, are you talking about Google search? Or are you talking like through like an ebook through the databases?
Well, I can give you an example, like The Art of War is so out of copyright that you can find PDFs of it out there. So if you just do that and then do file type :PDF. So I'm looking for the book title Art of War. And what you're, and here it is. You're going to be able to find PDFs of books that are out of copyright, which is generally 75 years or older if the copyright has not been renewed by the family or something. So that's one way to search for an entire book and to see who's got it. Various JSTOR has it free, and other schools have made it available as a PDF. The US Archives. Is that kind of what you meant in that question? It was a chat, so I can't see that.
I think so.
Okay, looks like that's it. And Google Books is another thing you can search. I haven't had great luck with that because usually what it does is shows you like a preview from Amazon or something, and you can sometimes get some useful information that way if you're just looking for a tidbit of something and you have access to 2 pages and what you want happens to be on those 2 pages, then theoretically you can use that as a source, but it's not the best thing to do. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and I will email everybody who attended a link to our library presentations research guide and a link to the PowerPoint, or I'll send the PowerPoint, and then I'll send you an email when the video is ready. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. That was really wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.